Okay, so we're going to talk about floating today, and I've said it before, but floating is so important. They really need to be comfortable in a floating position and to float in the water before we start taking them down the armbands. A child who is comfortable at remaining still in the water and is confident that they are buoyant and the water is solely holding them up will be so much more relaxed when they're swimming in the water. You'll notice their body position is better, their timing is better, it's not panicked, it's not rushed, they're not stiff, everything is a lot smoother, and therefore they're moving through the water in a more streamlined, more comfortable position, okay? Everything gets a bit looser, so their leg kick is floppier, their ankles are looser, their chin is closer to the surface, okay? So the sooner you can get children confident with floating, the better, okay? So I do it every lesson, no matter what stage they are, there's a floating opportunity every single lesson, okay? The one we usually start with typically is star float, okay? So you can do star on the front, star on the back. What you need to be doing is making sure their chin is nice and low, and when they're on the back that their head is in the water. And we're looking for that nice flat position. But more importantly, we're looking for them to be relaxed. So I tell them to relax. I tell them that the water holds them up, okay? The floppier they are, the better, the more relaxed they are, okay? Swimmers who are struggling with the star float position, there's a few simple things we can do to help them. So if they're on their back, they could turn their palms facing up, okay? Just opens your shoulders up a little bit and can help them to get their head further back. So if their legs are sinking or their tummy is sinking, turning the hands this way may help. Another one is having their hands a little higher. So rather than a starfish with their arms out to the side, they could do a starfish at a diagonal or a star with their arms a little bit higher up. That sometimes encourages stomach and legs up. It's all about your body composition. So where is the most of your muscle? Where is the most of your fat? Things like that all help with how we float. We don't all float horizontally, okay? And be mindful of that. You might have to tell the children that actually when they get into that star, their legs might start coming like this, but that's okay because their head is still at the surface and they are still floating. They're just floating here rather than here, okay? So this starts to happen and they might sit up, but just tell them to relax. Sometimes they drop down, and the more they relax, they may float back up again to the surface, okay? So it's all about being relaxed, being floppy, feeling the water holding you up. How does it hold you up? If you open your legs wider, do they come back to the surface? If you point your toes more, do they come to the surface, okay? It's all about the children experimenting themselves. If they have armbands on, it's absolutely fine for you to support those armbands. So I would hold the armbands, not the child. Obviously, if it's their first time floating and they're very nervous, you can support their head if you need to help them or support their arms. But at your earliest opportunity, I would take that support away because it's really important that the child feels the floating, okay? So I would hold the armbands. And sometimes I say, I'm holding your armbands, I'm going to keep holding, and I let go, and they don't know. And then when they sit up, you can make a big fuss of them and say, wow, you did that by yourself, I let go, I wasn't holding, okay? And then they're like, hey, I can do it. So things like that. If we're going to progress this then, we can do pencil floats. So again, on front and back. On front, they need their face in the water. So this is a good one to progress to once they've got their face in the water on a star float. And I usually count to 5 or 10 seconds with their face in the water, depending on what they're happy with. So once they can do a star on their front with the face in for 5, we progress to a pencil float. Face in the water, arms and legs together, they're nice and straight like a pencil. They can do this one on their back as well. Just be mindful of that banana in we talked about yesterday. They've got to push their tummy up flat as a pancake and not let it sink down. Then we can go to a mushroom. So tuck both knees in, cuddle your knees, put your chin on your chest, and they should end up in a floating position with their back at the surface and their face in the water, okay? If children jump into this one, I just splashed you guys. There we go. If children jump into this one, they end up under the water, but if they stay there long enough, they'll float back to the surface. So I usually tell them to do this gently off the floor or off the steps so that we remain at the surface, okay? Once they're competent with all three of those, so they can master star with the face in, star on the back, pencil with the face in, pencil on the back, mushroom on the front. I have seen some teachers do mushroom on the back. I don't like to do those unless they are extremely confident and at the higher stages. Otherwise, you tend to get them going into a mushroom and going under the water, and under the water on the back, obviously the water then goes up the nose, so it can put some of them off. But if you're happy with your class, that they're competent, then you can try it. What we can do then is try and put the floats together in a sequence. The kids love doing this because they see it as a challenge, but it's also really good for them to know that they can move about in the water and they still stay buoyant. So we can go star, pencil, mushroom, whilst they've got their face in and the float in. They can do that on the back as well. So from a star into a pencil into a mushroom on their back, okay? Once they've got that, we can do this sequence and mix and match from front to back, okay? And they're always like, oh, I've got to roll over, how exciting. So we can do maybe a star on their front, and then they've got to flip over and be a pencil on their back, and then they need to flip over back and turn into a mushroom on their front. Or they can start on their back, pencil on your back, flip over into a star on your front, mushroom on your back, okay? Whichever way you do it, try and get different rotations in. So we can have front to back this way, or we can do front to back this way. Okay, so different rotations. But please, please, please remember, floating is so important in learning to swim. Children who are confident at floating will be better swimmers for you. They will be more relaxed and they will go down their armbands much faster than someone who is not confident at floating. Enjoy!